Hello, hello, and welcome to the first episode of 22 Confessions podcast, where we discuss everyday life issues. We will be discussing real life issues today. I'm your host, Dr. BB, and I'm glad to have you with me on today. Our guest today is Associate Pastor Regina Nunnally, who is also an attorney by trade. She is the owner of See the World Through My Eyes, LLC, and is the Amazon bestseller of Boundless Success with Regina Nunnally. Thank you, Pastor Nunnally, for joining me today and being a guest on the Naked Confessions podcast.
Thank you, Dr. Banks, for the invite.
You're welcome. But before we dive into today's topic, is there anything else that I did not say moments ago that you would like to share with the listeners?
Um, um, they can follow me on Instagram at pksensation. So, yeah, that's a
Okay.
lot more information. That's what I do, content creating on Instagram.
Okay. Well, today's topic is how to navigate when the unexpected happens. And I'm sure you
Mhm.
all right now might be experiencing something that you never knew was going to blindside you. But that's the things that we deal with in life. We deal with
Mhm.
curveballs and situations that come out of nowhere.
Mhm.
Sometimes it takes the wind out of us. But with these curveballs, it provides an ability for us to adapt, to find meaning, to move forward, and to become what we were tested through. And
Mhm.
I like to say you test it to be a testimony for somebody
Mhm.
else. So with that, today Pastor Nunnally is going to join us in this discussion and reveal some strategies, lessons, and wisdom on how to build resilience, adaptability, and the creative process of finding a new pathway when the unexpected happens.
Mhm.
So, thank you again, Pastor Nunnally, for joining me on today's topic. And I just want to dive in real quick.
All right.
Don't want to take up too much of your time. But this is on going to be more so this first question on a personal note. Can you share with us a particular or specific moment in your life where you experienced an unexpected event and how you initially reacted?
Um, it's I've been on the planet for 52 years, so let me sort through. Because when you first go through something, you think, "Oh, this is the worst day of my life," and then as you go along, you be thinking, "Oh, okay, wait, this is the worst day of my life." So, I would say, it would have been the death of my father.
Mm-hmm.
That now I would say that when I was 16, very unexpected. He had been sick on and off. He was diabetic first of all, and then
Mm-hmm.
he wound up getting injured on the job because he was a cement finisher. And at the time, and then he was diagnosed with cancer, and then he had a
Mm-hmm.
stroke. So it was a lot of things, um, consistent issues going on, and then seeing how that went. We went from a one two income home to a one income home, and
Mm-hmm.
that caused stress. We thought we were going to lose the house, and it was just a lot going on. So as a kid, I'm seeing it from a child's point of view. My father going through all of this, and then the day after Mother's Day, 1989, um, he was sitting at the table eating, and I said bye, like I always do,
Mm-hmm.
not knowing that'll be the last day I'll see him alive. And I still had a little grudge. This is important,
Mm-hmm.
because you just never know when something's gonna. You got to learn how to get stuff out. If you have a grudge and you don't get a chance to get it right, yeah. And
Mm-hmm.
so I had a little grudge against my daddy, the day before because all over a piece of chicken. Usually it's over something like it's a piece of chicken situation.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said bye. And when I came home, generally he'll be in the room, and I'll check on him. He wasn't there. I saw that the furniture was moved out the way. I'm like, what's going on here?
Mm-hmm.
And this is back then. We didn't have no cell phones. We
Mm.
didn't have nothing.
That's
So
right.
I didn't know what was going on, Doc. To your viewers, I'm walking around like, what my dad? I went to neighbor's house, knocking on doors, or what's going on? And then I got a call from my brother, and he told me the exact words he said was, "Daddy went on home."
Mm.
And that was, I'm like, what? Wait, what? My daddy gone?
Mm.
And so obviously I'm in the house all by myself. So I and it was when I was in the room, the
Mm-hmm.
master bedroom, when I got the call and I saw my daddy's glasses in the beds. I grabbed his glasses and started holding on to it and started crying.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next thing I did, I called my boyfriend, and miraculously he answered the phone because that don't normally happen.
Mm.
And I talked to him. I told him what happened. He came over, and it was like, I guess at that time I was numb. It was like I never dealt with anything like that before. Now my father was a pastor as well,
Okay.
so I remember him talking about, how God, be with you when you're going through tough times. But as a teenager, I wasn't thinking about God like that. Um, and so, but I was praying and I was crying, and I had that grudge and that guilt. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't even get a chance to say goodbye. I didn't get a chance to say I'm sorry. I didn't get a chance to say anything because I assumed he was going to be home when I came back.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so the only thing I could really fall back on is what my dad had preached about. And because at that point, like I said, and I would say this, I knew people who had went through that, and so um, I was inspired by seeing, my friends. You have gone through that, and we have other friends that went through it. And so I said, and I looked at it, I said, well, if they can get through it, so can I. So that also was a help to me to know that I wasn't the only one that been through this, but this was my turn. This is my
Right.
season. And so he died the day after Mother's Day. And on Saturday morning, we had his funeral. Saturday evening, I went to my junior prom.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And and we had a reunion this weekend past, and one of my cousins said, um, she said, "Oh, I remember when you went to prom." I was like, "Yeah." Nobody knew I was going to prom. They just saw me. They saw me walk out of my prom dress. They were like, "Oh, yeah." So it was a surprise to them. And I said, resiliency wise, it's like at that point I was thinking in my head what my daddy would say. My daddy would say, "One monkey don't stop the show,"
Mm-hmm.
and you still gotta live
Right.
even though that season in your life is gone. And I still dealt with the guilt of not being able to have that opportunity to say goodbye,
Mm-hmm.
um, and into my adulthood. And it wasn't until I went to therapy and being in the church where I was crying about everything, um,
Mm-hmm.
at where I'm at now. But it's just that was difficult. But I took solace in the fact that I could pray. And matter of fact, I prayed that night. Um, and I said, God, I don't know if you can, but tell my dad I love him. Tell my dad I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you can. And that night, I had a dream. And the dream, I saw my daddy. He was dressed in white.
Mm.
And I ran up to him and I hugged him. And I said, I'm sorry, Dad. I'm sorry. I love you, Dad. I'm sorry. And the, the individual that looked like my father said, I know.
He was giving you solace to let you know.
Right.
And that's one thing people fail to realize. You never know the day, nor the time, nor the hour that your time and your number will be called.
Mm-hmm.
But and that's I have this thing when my oldest son lives with me. Every time he leaves, I tell him, "Be safe, love you."
Mm-hmm.
I with the with the expectation, yes, he's gonna come back home. And I do the same with my youngest son. We don't talk every day, and I'm like, that's that new generation. You text them, and it take 3-4 days to return if they return. But I understand, what he does for a living
Mm-hmm.
now more than ever. I may not get that text, so that's how it's just like we have to know how. And you both of us can relate because I lost my father in '86. We had this regiment where I would call him, and at that time he was sick. He was in the hospital, but that the doctors, his physicians at that time, had given him 6 years. I mean, 6 months. I'm sorry, 6 months to live. So that started when I was like 11 years old, give or take. But he ended up outliving that. He lived to 6 years because he
Mm,
had lupus and he was diabetic. And
mm,
because he was type 2 diabetic, he ended up losing his sight.
mm,
So at a young age, which is kind of a unexpected event, and I didn't realize it till later on when I became my mother's caregiver that I was his caregiver as a child.
mm,
But I didn't know that. I was being able to guide him to the bathroom, wash his face, give him something to eat. Because at that time, my mom and my dad were not together anymore. He lived separate. So I went over to his house to help him out. And
mm,
we had this regiment where I would get ready to go to school, and I would call him, and the nurse would put him on the phone, and I'd say, "Hi, Dad, I love you," and then get off the phone, and I go to school and do it. It just was a given regiment. And then one particular day, I did this same thing, and my mom was nursing at the time, but she worked at night. So we were crossing paths. She came home, me not knowing I had already went to school, but when I got to school, and at that time I worked in the office in junior high. I was able to do that at the school I went to. And
mm,
I called the hospital and told them who I was, and I needed to speak to my dad. And the nurse was like, "I'm sorry, young lady, you can't speak to your father today." And I'm like, "Huh? I just spoke to him last night. We do this every day. I speak to him in the morning, in the afternoon when I get out of school, and the night before I go to bed. But this
mm,
one particular day, they refused to put me on the phone. And they said, you need to contact your mother." And I'm like, "Okay, why do I need to contact my mom? She's at work or getting ready to go home from work." But
mm.
this the whole thing on how life happens, and
Right.
that we just don't understand at that time why we're going through it.
Mm-hmm.
Long story short, I found out he had transpired. He was gone. Now we knew it was coming, we just didn't know when.
Right.
And I think that's one of the main things with this topic. There's a lot going on in people's lives, and it's hitting them out of nowhere. So sometimes
Mm-hmm.
there are telltale signs that there's going to happen, and then we as humans, um, some with blinders, some in a space of denial, say, "Well, that's not going to happen to me," and until it happens.
Mm-hmm.
So that let's segue into the next question. Looking back, and when you talked about being in therapy, and I am a advocate for therapy. I love therapy.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
am, even if you don't have an issue, I suggest everybody to go to therapy because therapy, it liberates you.
Mm-hmm.
And I have this thing, and I got a shirt coming out that I have a therapist and I have God.
Mm-hmm.
So most people think, especially us African Americans in the church, think, well, I'm not going to say now, but the old school where you pray on it, pray it away.
Mm-hmm.
But people fail to realize God gave man, those people, the intuitiveness to seek to want to be in that profession.
Right.
And I really love my therapist because not only she's a therapist, but she's a woman of God.
Mm-hmm. My therapist was also, and matter of fact, when oh well, the reason why I started seeing one was because fast forward when I went through another unexpected rerouting in my
Mm-hmm.
life when I went through a heartbreak,
Mm-hmm.
and then that I it was that was I think that was one of the situations out in my life that I have my life on lock.
Mm-hmm.
Usually there is a boundary and there's a limit, and so I usually can control stuff, keep it in its place. But this one, I was out of whack everywhere. So I was at work out of whack. They saw me crying. I had a I had an anxiety attack
Mm-hmm.
at work. because of this, the situation I was going through. So that was open. And for me, being a person that like to have the persona that everything is perfectly fine,
It's like
that
you want to what is it called?
compartmentalize it.
Yes, that's the
Yeah,
word.
well, I wanted to compartmentalize it. I wanted to do everything. I wanted to give it an apartment, a house, mansion. I wanted to give his own address, his IP address. Because right there, because I felt like I was out of control.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't control my emotions. It's like I was trying to say, Regina, you strong, like you're a professional, you're a believer, and that was the battle. Because like you said, I wouldn't allow myself to be human,
Mm-hmm.
the human side of me. And that was when I started. That's when and I wound up leaving my church because I grew up in the church. Well, my dad a pastor. I was a
Mm-hmm.
youth minister. I taught Bible study, Sunday school, preach in the choir, stuff. I was busy, and then I left all that behind because of that situation, and that was traumatic for me. I cried more about leaving my church kids than I did about what happened between the
Because
young man.
that was
It was just
the
devastating to me.
familiar.
Yeah, and then I got the bomb dropped on me on my birthday. Oh boy, I got the bomb dropped on me on my birthday about certain things. I said even on my birthday, I can't find no joy. I can't
Wow.
find no joy, and so again, stuff happening, and you like, why can you please do it in a nice cookie cutter way?
Mm-hmm.
No, that's not how it works. And so that's when I started seeing a therapist, and then all this other stuff that I'm dealing with come out. And he was also a believer as well. And that went on for years, until finally we got to a point where he was like, you know what? It's just time for us to part ways.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, but I never thought, Doc, I would stop crying. I cried every day. I cried on the toilet. I cried on the way to work. I cried so much to the point I only turned my windshield wipers on. Now you know it's bad when you turn your windshield wipers on and you crying going to work because I'm trying to find something to girl, it was like again, but then again, God put people in my life
Mm-hmm.
that I didn't even know that went through stuff. But because I was transparent and open with them because I felt safe,
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't want no judgment. Because I had got judgment from a so-called friend of mine. I mean, she went at me, and I was at my lowest, Doc, and she
Mm-hmm.
pouring water on a drowning man. So some people you can't talk to.
I know that.
So,
Learned the hard way. And I can attest when you get blindsided, hit with a curveball, and it's like, okay, where did that come from?
mm-hmm,
And that's why I'm just going to give a little snippet of my testimony. When
mm-hmm,
I was married at the time and I got blindsided, at that time I was going through a miscarriage. I had just miscarriage my lost my third child.
mm-hmm,
So my then husband, because we were separated, came to visit, and I'm thinking he coming to check up on me. No, he was coming to tell me, "Hey, I want a divorce." Now, in the midst, may just to clarify the listeners, now we were separated, but he was coming back and forth from where, at the time he was living in Atlanta, I was living in Florida. So he
yeah,
was coming back. So yes, we as a married couple did what people do, married couples do, and I got pregnant. But in the
mm-hmm,
duration, that baby ended up not, of course, I only have two live births because I only have two children now, but I was at the point of getting ready to have my third child.
mm-hmm,
That didn't happen. So it's like I'm going through a miscarriage. I'm trying to mentally process, I had a child in my womb. On top of that, the baby um metastasized in my womb. I had to have a DNC. I had to go through all of that. And that messed with me mentally
mm-hmm,
to have to deal with that, to say I had a child and now I don't.
mm-hmm.
And then on top of that, it's like layers.
Yep.
Then you come and tell me, hey, I'm with somebody else. I want a divorce. And I'm like, okay, you've been going back and forth all this time. When this happened? But to add salt to injury, I found out later when we went through the divorce proceedings that he had been dealing with this girl than our entire marriage. To the point he called this person a coworker. I was taking this girl's children to school. They were
What?
spending time and playing with my son, my oldest son. She done laughed, and I'm like, wow,
Ooh.
really? I said, now see, now then it hit me. So I wasn't it was a lot that was going on. And I said, it's nothing but by God's grace
Yes,
and
ma'am.
mercy that you're speaking to me
Yeah.
and I was not arrested.
Yes, I was about to say, I can see the handwriting on the wall. DC number 35623. I got you. Listen, you said I have too much to lose.
Because it'd have been like this. But
Oh
I'm
yeah,
like,
and you
mm-mm.
would have a smile on your face.
Uh-huh. But I said, but no, I
Woo.
have two children
Yep.
that's dependent on me.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing I said, I always said, the only way I'm going to go into a jail if my client's there.
Mm-hmm.
And the last time I worked in a jail, I was a PO, but I was in the part doing the processing. That letting them out, telling me, that was the only part of my job, and I did that part time because I was like, oh, I don't want to go back to working with, DJJ or DOC and all that. But
Mm-hmm.
I said, no, you're not worth it. You're not worth my time, my energy, my freedom, because I got two kids that depend upon me. And I put it to this point: if she wants you, bye. Sign the divorce papers. And it got to a point I represented myself when I went to court. I did not get an attorney.
Mm-hmm.
I put on my best suit, got my iTouch case, put all my paperwork in there. I did my own research. I'm like, because at that time I was aspiring to be an attorney anyway. That was one of my life dreams. So I'm like, I had law classes when I was in graduate school. So I was like, take that energy you learned when you had to do your debriefings and all that in class and
Mm-hmm.
put it to use. Now, I'm not a licensed attorney, but I could put what I learned.
Right.
And I worked in the court system. So I'm like, you know how to do it, Bessie. Do it. And I went to court, walked in. The attorney was like, where's your attorney? I said, I'm she. And she looked at me. I said, yes, Miss Banks. And then we spoke, and I told her what I wanted, the days in as far as visitation. Now, calculating uh, child support, that's different. The state had to do that, the court
Right.
system. But
Mm-hmm.
anything else, I'm like, I don't need to hire an attorney when I can do it myself.
Mm-hmm.
And the judge was like, ma'am, you just saw it, Stu. I said, thank you, sir. Did my due? He said, anything? I said, nope. That what you have is what I want. So, that's it. So that's when sometimes when life hits you, and it's like when I say life hits you, that old saying, when life gives you lemons, make your lemonade.
Mm-hmm.
So I get me a jug, get me some lemons, some sugar, some simple syrup if you want, however you want to do it, and some ice.
Make some lemonade, some lemon meringue pie. Don't start there.
A lemon pound cake,
Just a lemon lime. Just a lemon lime. Go get a Sprite. They got lemon in
whatever
it.
you want.
Yep. Yep.
So
Gotta
let's
turn it
go a little
around.
bit more about this emotional part.
Mm-hmm.
So you gave us a little snippet of how you dealt with what you dealt with leading up the passing of your father, then everything dealing with your ex, and I'm sure it was a entourage of, you don't have to share, but I'm sure it was a lot that got you to it. It pierced your soul.
Oh my God.
Um.
Pierce. So I was shattered. I ain't never. I mean, I've been disappointed,
Mhm.
but never on that level. Cause it was so many, like you said, it was so many other layers.
Mhm.
It's just one thing if you don't care about the person, you
Right.
know. Then it's like you could take it or leave it and all that. But it's another when you love them
Mhm.
and you've invested time and energy. You had expectations. Um, prayed together. I mean, you know, things that connected, you know, and then you grieve what could have been, because it was a situation where he texted me at my job telling me he was getting married, and I didn't know anything about it, you know, whatever. And then I heard stuff after the fact. He didn't tell me hardly nothing. People knew that he was seeing somebody. I didn't know. You know, he didn't tell me anything. Now I will preface this that we were not official. We had a situationship. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But that came about after being friends and had, you know, being around each other. And
Mm-hmm.
there's a backstory to the backstory to the backstory. All I got to say is that I prayed and asked God was my husband. God told me, yeah. I didn't say anything. I let it ride. Then one
Mm-hmm.
day, a little bit of year in, I told the guy, look, I'm not sure where this is going, but I think I doubt, I don't think I heard what I heard about you being my husband. And he told me, don't doubt what you heard. I said, really? I know.
Wow,
Don't doubt
boldness.
what you heard. And we had a conversation about that. Come up, he said, but I don't like you in that way. I said, what? You don't like me in that way, but you don't want to doubt what I heard. So me and him had a conversation. I
Mm-hmm.
called him a fool. I said, listen, you being a fool right now. Because I'm like, you know, because here you are saying that you don't want to doubt what God said about you, but what about me?
Mm-hmm.
And so he had like he didn't want to answer the question. So that's just another situation right there. That's a conversation right there. Like when you're dealing with somebody that doesn't that says they don't like you in that way,
Mm-hmm.
end it. This is
Red
going,
flags.
this is going about your business and all that. You know, we were in church together all the time, and I saw him. That still didn't stop turn off my love for him, the desire I have for him.
Mm-hmm.
And then later on, it turned to a situationship that lasted for 6 months, and then about 3 4 months later, he said he was getting married, and I'm like, you know what who is she? Where is she? And all that. You know, it just he invited her to the church, but he was too scared to tell me what was going on. But she came to church. She was sitting out there in the pews, and some of my friends, and everybody said, "Yeah, I think I remember that." I said, "Where was I?" I said, "I go to church
Unbeknownst to you.
every Sunday." I said, "That like God." I said, "Was there a scale in my eyes or something?"
Mm-hmm.
And you know, so I come to the conclusion that even if we didn't, it wasn't a husband and wife thing. You still was my friend. And
Mm-hmm.
at the very least, protect the friendship. Didn't even to do that. You just kind of, I was in the dark, completely in the dark. And I said, how can somebody see you every day, church, Bible study, look you dead in the eye, and not tell you
Mm-hmm.
anything that they know is going to affect, and they're doing it anyway. But you doing it anyway. So if it's wrong,
Mm-hmm.
if it wasn't wrong, then why you hiding it? You know what I'm saying? It
Exactly.
is what it is. We ain't together. Why you hiding it from me? What was
That's
that? Yeah, that made no sense. So all that stuff coming up and stuff I was hearing, and I was confused. I said, God, why'd you let this happen? I said, what did I do wrong? I
mm-hmm.
mean, did I do something wrong? You let him, and that's why I learned a valuable lesson of free will. Free will is
Mm-hmm.
a beast.
Mm-hmm.
You don't gotta accept. You want what you want.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to accept what God give you. You can do what you want to do, but you're just gonna have to learn the lesson out of that. You know, you want God's best for you, and you want what you want. So that's why I learned free will. So I was like, oh my God, and so yeah, I went through those highs and lows, and I questioned my value. I questioned, what made her better than me, and why her. I went through it, and I couldn't be happy for nobody. Lost weight, not as a bad thing, but people were saying, "Oh, Regina, you looking good. What you doing?" And I'm like, I'm just watching what I eat. Not eating as much as usual. Oh, okay. But I couldn't tell. Some people I couldn't tell what was going on because I didn't want them to know because I was embarrassed.
But
I was
that's
embarrassed.
same with me. My family, one of my sisters say that I was radical for Christ, because that's when I really like delved into the Word of God, because I needed that.
Mm-hmm.
I needed my sanity. I needed to, because it got, when that was a gut wrench hit. For one, I'm dealing with a miscarriage. Then my husband at the time tells me I want a divorce, and I'm like you said, what did I do?
Mm-hmm.
I bore your children. What, why me? But then
Mm-hmm.
God started to say, I've been showing you the red signs. You just chose to look the other way
Yeah.
because you want to fight for your family. And I'm like, oh, okay. So, but it was like I had to take baby steps because at that point I felt like my the wind was knocked out of me. My whole world collapsed around me. But
Mm-hmm.
one thing my dear mother, God rest her soul, told me, I was laying in the bed and I just cried, 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 cried. And I did it out of sight of my children. But I just cried, cried. I just could not get myself together. She came in, she called me by my middle name. She said, "Get up. You ain't the first person that got the black divorce, and you won't be the last." She said,
Oh,
"I did it
shit.
with 5 of y'all. Get up." Nah, she ain't said in them those exact words.
G, that's OG. Yes, your mother's straight OG.
Yes, rated R. So I can't say it,
Great.
but
Yeah,
she
get that
said,
so and
"Get your,
so up.
you know what, up.
Mm-hmm.
Get dressed. Get back to who you were, but get back who God created." And from that, I started getting in the Word of God. I started reading books. I started journaling. I started doing
Mm-hmm.
everything to build me up.
Journaling, yeah.
I
Journaling is
started
important.
walking. It
Yeah.
did. And that journaling led to my first book because
Mm-hmm.
I went through every journal I wrote from what 2000, the beyond, the start process of us getting divorced started in 2002. So from 2002, and we finally got finalized divorce in 2006. So 4 years, that's all I did.
Yeah.
Journal. I got bags and bags of journals. So God got to that point. He said, He gave me the title of the book. He said, now all those journals, go back and pull every one of them, read. You already wrote your book.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's how I compiled it. But it was one thing just to go through all of that, all those years of crying, and it took a time because I can honestly say he came back in my life and started trying to manipulate me, saying, you still love me, especially when I moved back to Atlanta area. I'm like, you come and get our son. That is it. You don't need to know nothing about me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Get him and go about your business.
Yeah.
Let me know when you bringing him back. Let me know who he's around because I don't like my children around at that time around anybody. I mean, to the point I didn't let my kids spend a night at nobody's house, especially if I didn't know them. I had to go in and inspect the house.
Yeah. You have to these days. You don't know
I
who you
said, but
dealing with. Mm-hmm.
I said not the way I am. I dealt with too many children when I worked for DJJ that, whew, um,
Yeah. Yeah. I
mm,
know.
you
Mm-hmm.
know.
I know.
So I'm like, nah, so it was like building. I'm like, you're not gonna come back in my space. You're not gonna
Mm-hmm.
upset my peace. That door is closed. The day you say you want a divorce, and I finally accepted it, and I signed my name on the dotted line, the marriage has been dissolved. Get your son, go on your merry way, and I hope you're happy over there.
Mm-hmm.
And as time for passed, I started saying, "Oh, I would make cunning jokes." I said, "Oh, so that astroturf over there is choking you, huh? You had your 80, but you chose your 20. Now go
Yeah.
on over there to your 20 and stay
Mm-hmm.
over there."
Mm-hmm.
But as time, moved on, I purposely did not date for 16 years. Purposely.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And most people's like, I would have people approach me, people at church, where I work, when I worked in the school system. I don't want to date nobody because I was getting back to Bessie.
Exactly.
It was just me and God and me raising my sons.
Exactly.
I didn't want nobody coming and messing that up. I
Mm-hmm.
dated myself. I took myself out. I,
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
But that's neither here, neither there. We want to talk back on you.
No, that's fine. I mean, this is good. This is real talk because as we talk, we're hearing what we done to cope. Because I too was journaling,
Mm-hmm.
and it was and it was I went back and I read the stuff. I was like, good googly moogly. Oh, what was I thinking? But that's where I was, and
Mm-hmm.
the operative term is was.
Exactly.
And that's where you and all the viewers, that's where you want to get. You want to get to the was.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to go through the process. And one
Mm-hmm.
thing God had to do to me, because you said God ain't your therapist. The one thing the Lord had to do to me that I didn't want to do, because I had left my church and I'm one of these people. I'm extreme. I go from one extreme to another. I said, I ain't never going back to Macedonia. As long as Pharaoh's on the throne, as I am not going back to Macedonia. I am not sitting back in that church ever, as long as they're down there.
Mm-hmm.
That, believe it or not, even though that pride side, that boss chick, that strong, like I'm declaring, I ain't going back down to that church. But deep down, I really did want to go back.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't want to go back to see all that.
Right.
I didn't want to see all that, him and the family and I didn't want to see all that. And that bothered me for years. And I would go get my hair done in Titusville, which is like, I'm in Daytona Beach and Titusville South, and our church is in Oak Hill. So I had to pass by the exit to go to Oak Hill. Every
Mm-hmm.
time I pass by the exit to go to Oak Hill, I start crying. Because I missed, because my family was still down there.
Mm-hmm.
I left. I walked up out of it, like that, coming out from amongst them. I
Mm-hmm.
came out from amongst them, and I was like, so what I'm gonna do now, God? I ain't got no church to go to. I don't know which way to go. So I had to pray and ask Holy Spirit, Holy Spirit, where do I go? What do I do?
Mm-hmm.
And when I left my church, Holy Spirit had me going to places, and God gave me a word. The pastor would say, I don't know who this is for, but, and I'd be like, that word for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so God was doing his therapy. But one thing that God had made me do, he forced me to face the very thing I was afraid of.
Mm-hmm.
I had to face it. And he did it by I call it Operation Hambone.
Mm-hmm.
We had a pastor's anniversary. Well, past anniversary, they had past anniversaries, past appreciation. And they always have an eating, like a potluck, and then they have the regular, another service. So my mama made a ham. The years my mom been cooking food, taking it down to church, she never ever forgot anything. But this particular Sunday, she forgot the ham.
Mm.
So at this point, I'm at another church, and I'm doing my own thing. So my mom called me and said, Jeannie, I forgot the ham. I said, oh, you did? She goes, yeah. And she said, I have Rennie, my brother Rennie, meet you
Mm-hmm.
halfway. And Doc, before I even, it came out of my mouth, I said, oh, that's all right. I'll bring it down to the church. And she was like, yeah. And my mom was like, okay. And then when I got off the phone with her, I said, wait, what? Wait, what? Wait, did I just say I was going to bring it down to the church? And girl, I was in this. I was like, okay, I got to come on the plan. Okay, I got these kids with me. I pick up from go to church with me. I'm gonna drop them off. I got to go to the house, get the ham, put it in the trunk. It was still cold, so it was still good. It was February, and then I said, once I get done, I get to church. I'm gonna drop these kids off. I'm gonna drive like a bat out of a cave to get this ham down there. I'm gonna drop it off because I didn't want to see nobody. I didn't want
Mm-hmm.
to see them. I didn't want to see church people. I just want to drop it off and go because I was still dealing with the disconnect.
Mm-hmm.
Well, church went longer than I expect. I'm looking at the clock. I said, all these people got to come into the altar to pray. I said, nobody can pray for themselves today. I was like, come on now. I was like, I got things to do. And so I dropped. And so, boy, I was like looking at the clock. I said, they'll be getting out of time. I mean, I was in total, I was like, I was not the Spirit of the Lord's day that day. And so got in my car, drove all the way down there. And when I got there, I saw people was out. I'm like, dang. I said, okay. So I took the ham out the trunk, went to the back to go through the annex, and the first person I saw was his wife. And I thought to myself, dang, you still here? I'm thinking she ain't relevant. I'm being honest, okay? So I'm like, Good grief. So when she saw me, she left.
Mm-hmm.
That's a whole nother situation because I don't. She saw me. She walked out, and so I brought the hand because nobody knew I was coming.
Mm-hmm.
It was a surprise to them, and then people start her, and they came in the back to me. Oh, Miss Minister Nunnally. Oh, Miss Regina. They were hugging on me. People were crying. Oh, we miss you. We miss you. We miss you. And I'm standing there like, oh my gosh. And finally, I did see them, and but because I was, but God, that was the first hurdle.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, I went back to the church at least 4 times that year. And I was asked to be a speaker at a at a youth service. And I said, okay, because I'm a person of duty. When it comes to ministry, I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, I got to minister no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew I was going to see him, but I said, I said, I can't focus on him. I got to minister.
Right.
I wound up ministering to his stepdaughter, the daughter of his wife.
Mm-hmm.
I wound up ministering to his stepdaughter. She came up for prayer.
Mm-hmm.
And so again, God is working on my heart, working on me on that situation. I did not know that was going to happen, but I was being obedient and consistent in what God called me to do. And I
Mm-hmm.
said, here, I'm praying for this young lady. But at that point, I ain't thinking about what happened. I'm not thinking about anything. She came for prayer. She came to the woman of God for prayer. And so praying on it. And see, I mean, I'm just telling you what God did for me. And then I had to see the very thing that I did not want to see because God says you got to get over this hurdle. Because you
And
got all
that's
these conjured up ideas in your head about certain things. You need to see it for yourself. Discern what's really going on. I'm thinking they're having a happy marriage and
hmm,
oh, but when I saw, I was like, okay, okay.
spiritual maturity because as you were speaking, it came back to my remembrance. Um, I had an incident a few years back, but this one was more profound for me, and I knew God had taken me to another level. You know, He says from grace to grace to glory to
Mm-hmm,
glory. I
mm-hmm.
knew I went to another level when I told my ex one day we were on the phone and he called to speak to my son, but for some reason he wanted to speak with me because I had this thing. We don't have nothing to talk about. If it's not talking about our son, we have nothing to discuss.
Mm-hmm.
But this particular day, he wanted to talk to me, so I said, I obliged him. And before I handed the phone off to my son and called him to get it, I said, you know what, such and such, I'm being led and compelled to say this, that I wish you well in your marriage to your wife. And I
Mm-hmm.
hope you find with her what you couldn't find with me.
Mm-hmm.
And when
Amen.
I said that, I didn't cry.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't feel. That's why I said, "Oh, I done went to another level." Right then, I was like,
Yeah,
"Okay, God,
sorry. Sorry, I
another
said.
level of spiritual maturity."
Yeah, yeah. And
But
in doing that, you sowed seeds. I heard my pastor say this, and I didn't mean to cut you. I'm sorry, but
mm-hmm,
um, and still, I'm just saying, my process is still going. There's certain things I didn't know that was still there because
mm-hmm,
now I'm just gonna say it. I'm marriage minded now. I am
mm-hmm,
marriage minded. I'm being more intentional about that. I
mm-hmm,
want to become. I am a wife, and I'm praying for my husband. I don't know where he at, but I'm praying for him. And one of the things that my pastor talked about was victim mentality, and I was I was going through some type of transition this month dealing with that mindset. And I was like, huh? So I said, you know what? I am operating it as I thought to be convicted, working in victim mentality. And I said, I'm self sabotaging certain things, such as I'm not really, truly, I'm not truly embracing what I really want because the
mm-hmm,
stuff I really want hurts too bad for me to hope for it because I've been disappointed. So I
mm-hmm,
act like it's not a big deal. So I blow it off. And I said, no, 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 no. I really do want this. So why am I acting like I don't care? And that's not really the truth because I'm being passive
right,
about the journey versus being
mm-hmm,
intentional. And I realized, I said, I still have unforgiveness. I have a grudge still there.
mm-hmm,
It's still there. And I'm like, OMG. I'm like, oh my God. And so I had to go in humble submission. I said, Lord, I thank you that I am in a place right now where when the Spirit of God speaks,
Mm-hmm.
my heart can receive it. And I got in front of in the congregation. I told him, I said, you know what? That message was for me. I'm embarrassed to say I'm still holding on to stuff. And I didn't realize what was really going on with me because
Mm-hmm.
stuff was happening up to that point. But yeah, you get to a point, and she said this thing. She said, when you get to the point where you can heal the person that hurt you, you can heal the person that hurt
Hurt
you.
you.
That's the mind of Christ.
Mm-hmm.
That's nobody but Jesus right there. The mind of Christ. When he said, forgive them, Lord, if they don't know what they're doing,
There you go.
that comes. That ain't that didn't happen for you overnight. That ain't happen for me overnight. And I want people to know, give yourself grace. Give yourself grace. God gave you grace because he says grace is sufficient. All right. So you give yourself grace when you're going through this process. It's a
Mm-hmm.
process. Something came at you and snatched you out of your comfort zone. And now you're dispatching to deep waters and you don't know what's going on. Because we
Mm-hmm.
like to be things to be predictable. We like things to be okay. We know this is gonna happen, this is gonna happen, this is gonna happen. That's how we like it. That's not life all the time.
And,
Sometimes
and
it is, and sometimes it isn't.
and that's trying to be in control. And I listen. I had a doctor's appointment yesterday, and I was listening. I'm sure you heard Miles Monroe. It
Yeah.
was old taping, and I was driving along, and it was something he said is that we as people want to be in control.
Mm-hmm.
We have to know, and I used to be like that. I used to plan out my I mean at one point I planned out my whole life when I was a little
Mm-hmm.
girl.
Mm-hmm.
I want to get married. I
Mm-hmm.
want to have two kids. I want a girl and a boy. I want to
Mm-hmm.
do this. I want to, and now that I'm 54 years old, I look back and ain't none of that happened.
Well,
I
you
mean,
had two
I mean,
kids.
I got two kids, but I ain't have a girl. I do have my own home. I dream to have a business, and now God is blessing me with businesses, and we'll talk about this at another date and another time when you come back
Mm-hmm.
on the show.
Mm-hmm.
But how time and things have happened for me to get to this point. I know He still has so much more in store
Mm-hmm.
and so much more to give me, but it's just like all this. I wanted to have the rings that to design my own life, not knowing that my life had already been being designed before I was placed in my mother's womb.
Yeah.
Everything that he had is already in me
Mm-hmm.
before that time, before the dispensation of time. But
Mm-hmm.
now he's drawing it out of me.
Mm-hmm.
And
Timing,
that's
timing,
how
and purpose.
sometimes when we talk about the unexpected, it blindsides us because we have this we it's like we're zero focus on we have a laser focus, I should say, on what we want in life and what we want out of life. But then when it doesn't go our way, then we get like, oh, what was me? And I mean, just like you were saying, it's just like you just couldn't control yourself emotionally to just be crying like I wanted this. But sometimes what we want is not what God has for us because
Mm-hmm.
He knows what's best for us. And now my prayer in life has changed. Even now we're in business. I've had some, I could say last school year, we were at a school and we had been at this school since 2019 doing our program. And they got a, new administration. You know how, corporate life,
Yeah.
no
Yeah.
matter where you are,
Mm-hmm.
you get new administration or leadership and
Mm-hmm.
they come in and change the dynamics of the office or the
Mm-hmm.
business or the company or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And she came in and I was being polite and I said, hello, I'm Dr. Stuart Banks and I'm the president, blah, blah, doing my whole little spew. And she looked at me and politely said with a little smug, what do you want me to do? And I'm like, okay.
Right.
So right then I knew, okay, Bessie, it's time to pivot. You already said God had been leading you that you're going to be leaving next year. And this was my unexpected moment. So
Mm-hmm.
leading up to the school year, this time last year, I got a call because my oldest son works with me, and I was meeting a client because I got another job, and I got a text message. He said, "Can you end your session soon? I need your help." And I'm like, "I'm wrapping up. Be there 20 minutes." You know, in Atlanta, 20 minutes is like 30, 40 for traffic. So I
Mm-hmm.
got there, and we had to immediately remove all our stuff that we had accumulated in 6 years. We were
Wow.
blindsided.
Mm-hmm.
And that was my unexpected moment. They dissolved our partnership. One thing, they put a lock on the gate going to the facility that we were utilizing. So we couldn't get in. We had to go get permission to go all this rigmarole just to get our stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
we had to get it out within like an hour or two. So I'm using my truck to go get the stuff, bringing it back to my house, and that's just like not. I mean, my garage is in disarray because we still get trying to get to a place where we get our own building. But long story short, had I not had I allowed that to happen to break me as far as an entrepreneur, I wouldn't be where we are this year. And that's
Mm-hmm.
why I was going back to the message that what Miles Monroe was saying on this particular tape is that you have to loose the reins of trying to be in control.
Mm-hmm.
If you say you believe God, believe him. Take your hands off of it.
Right.
And I'm so thankful because at that time I said, I had to go and dig up every tree. I had to go do this and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, all right, Bessie, although the stuff was donated to your organization, if you go and mess it up, then they're gonna try to come back at you and charge you for vandalism and blah 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 blah. Leave it alone.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote the principal a nice long letter, and I said, we're donating this stuff to you, the stuff we couldn't take out and remove, and I let her have her little moment. But how God takes when you are obedient, when He hit, or not, I'm gonna say He, but when life hits you, if you allow him to lead you and, like he said, order your steps the way he wants it, you will be
Mm-hmm.
so surprised how God would lead you. When he says he will make your enemies your footstool,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna say this and I'm gonna give it back to you. This past summer, I have befriended someone who's like a big wig in the school system,
Mm-hmm.
and she invited me. She said, "Dr. Banks, can your organization come and be a speaker for our conference this summer?" And I'm like, "Oh, what we're going to speak about?" And she said, "Just talk about your organization and social emotional learning, everything." She said it's going to be, all the principals throughout the entire county. I'm like, "Oh, really?"
Wow.
I said, "Okay, this is our moment." I said, and that's why I say we cannot allow the unexpected to throw and blow us the wind out of us, that we can't recalibrate and get ourselves back. And I look at it, sometimes the unexpected is a push.
Yeah. It is.
God's little loving, tender, but firm hand to say,
Yeah.
you over
Yeah.
here whining and crying about this, and I'm trying to get something better to you.
Yeah. That's where the word says that all things work
Mm-hmm.
for your good. It didn't say it was gonna feel good. It's that all things work for your good for those who love the Lord and are called according to his purpose. So we're called, and therefore he's gonna work every situation for our good because he has a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
There's a purpose for us. And so he's gonna turn that thing around. I was reminded of my brother say he preached his message, and I heard somebody it was on TikTok that they talk about it. But he talked about when Paul they were on the ship and they was
Mm-hmm.
heading to Italy. I don't know heading I don't know heading to Italy. It was heading somewhere, and Paul had told the captain, "Listen, we don't need to go on. We don't need to be going sailing because it's not going. It's going to be a storm, and we don't need to go." Well, the captain told him basically kick rocks. You don't tell me what to do because I'm a captain. I know the seas. You don't. So Paul like, all right. So they get on the ship and a storm comes up and then the ship wind up breaking to pieces. And Paul said to them, hold on to the piece. Put on the ship. If you hold on to the pieces of the ship,
Mm-hmm.
we'll get to shore safely. And they all did. And so I heard my brother talk about it and I heard the guy talk about it. And I said, oh my gosh, the pieces,
Mm-hmm.
even though, y'all know, y'all picking up what I'm putting down, right? Even though your heart might be in pieces, that dream might feel like it's in pieces, God can still take that pieces and get you safely to shore.
Mm-hmm.
Them little pieces, if you hold on to it, he can still get you because little things don't the little things God can be big. He said, "What if you had faith as a size of a mustard seed? You could speak to that mountain,
And
and
it will
that
move.
mountain will move." So, what you think he's going to be able to do with the pieces that of your heart, the pieces of your dream, the piece of anything? He can take that piece and make get big things out of it because there's
Mm-hmm.
nothing too hard for him. That's the God we serve. If you
When you
trust me.
said that about the pieces, this is analogy I used to always, I I am a firm believer. I mean, because the word of God says, encourage yourself in the Lord. So
Yep.
I like to encourage. When I was going through that tumultuous time in my life, when I talked about my ex husband and the stuff I went through and the stuff I learned, it's like I used to say, it's like God took my life and threw it up, meaning he threw up what I tried to design. And now it's like every puzzle piece, he said, okay, put it there. That didn't work. She's not learning that one. But as soon as
Mm-hmm.
I learned, okay, she got that one, put that piece there.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like a puzzle piece.
That's good. Mm-hmm.
Everything is like intricately putting it where it was supposed to be had I listened and been
Mm-hmm.
obedient and followed him and his lead
Mm-hmm.
versus following what I wanted.
Exactly. That's good.
And that's when, even when you can correlate that with the unexpected.
Mm-hmm.
When you get blindsided, don't go and be topsy turvy and thrown out of whack. And I want to just put this into perspective. Even those nowadays, if you are losing your job unexpectedly, yes, it's tumultuous. Yes, you're gonna experience a little bit of anxiety, but you got to remember, God did not give us the spirit of fear, but of love, peace, and of a sound mind.
Yeah.
Fall back on what you know. Take
Mm-hmm.
it from a person, and I don't want to brag. I don't want to put anybody down. I'm just speaking my truth. I look at it when people were prospering, Bessie was struggling.
Mm-hmm.
But I say my time of struggle was preparation to help somebody else.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And God was going to give me that such time to say, okay, this is how you make it.
Mm-hmm.
Trust me, you going to make it.
Mm-hmm.
I know because I've been there several times. I don't, and two times it's been because of illness. Once back in 2005, they thought they lost me, all because we're not gonna go there because that was a big lawsuit. But
Mm-hmm.
I ended up being hospitalized, and then again in 2023 when my mother passed, that was another economic devastation for me because I was hospitalized down in Daytona
Mm-hmm.
almost a week. And I'm like, I didn't have insurance. I was out of state because I was no longer a resident of Florida. And I'm like, okay, all of this, but I said, but God.
Good God.
He said, I will never leave you nor forsake you. He said, remember an oath I was with you? If I could do it then, what you think I'm gonna do now? So that goes for anybody, whatever you're experiencing, God will provide.
Mm-hmm.
But you gotta trust him.
Yep.
Now, man, I'm sorry to tell you, man is fickle.
Yep.
Up one day, down, and I ain't gonna even say one day. It could be within moments.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So put your trust solely in God,
Solely in Him. Mm-hmm.
especially in the when that unexpected, because the unexpected can happen anywhere. I mean, the unexpected can come in the form of finances. It could come in the space of, unfortunately, you unexpectedly lose a loved one.
Mm-hmm.
It could come in the space of you get injured, and it's just so it's a plethora of things that can happen where your whole world is turned upside down. I mean, you could go to work, and then by the end of the day, you getting a pink slip.
Mm-hmm.
Say, I'm sorry, ma'am, sir, we can't use you anymore. So you have to step back, and try to reevaluate. So with that being said, Pastor Nunnally, what roles, and that's just some of my solutions of what I would suggest, but what roles, or what would you say creatively or resourcefulness would you say you find in providing solution with the examples you provided today in regards to when the unexpected happened in your life?
I think it's important for one that we be realist, be
Mm-hmm.
real, and like you say, don't be in denial. What's stuff gonna happen?
Mm-hmm.
Like they say, life be life.
Right.
So it is to your advantage, number one, to embrace the fact that things happen. Accidents happen. You can, like the accidents happen, unexpected things happen. It will happen. Okay. The word of God tells us that, there's nothing new under the sun. So,
Mm-hmm.
there's time for this and time for that. So things are going to happen. You're going to mourn one day. You're going to be happy one day. You're going to have work. You're going to have nothing. There's going to be plenty. There's going to be lack. But Paul said he learned how to be content in everything. He
Mm-hmm.
learned. That's the key. He learned, and
Yes.
learning comes from experience.
Mm-hmm.
Learning comes from whether you live an experience or you live somebody else's experience. Experience is experience. You learn these things. So you want you to come to the realism that that unexpected is going to happen. Two, when they do happen, then you have to, as you did, you have to think back. Okay, same God then, same God now.
Mm-hmm.
But see, now you learning God in a different level. You
Right.
learning God in a different way. But when my mom my mom was diagnosed with cancer about 15, 16 years ago. They found a tumor in her tongue. She went through radiation and had an operation. Boom. Well, last year, she was talking about her throat was sore and we didn't know what was going on. She was taking all kind of cold medicines and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, and there was other stuff popping up. And so she was going to the hospital. And I was like, and I said, when she finally got in the hospital in December of last year, I said, God, please let us have doctors or something in place so we know what's going on. Because I'm tired of this going home and something going on. So she finally got a biopsy done, found out she had cancer on the back of her tongue.
Mm.
So they gave her two options: operation. First she had one option, operation, and the doctor said, "Well, the way the cancer is and what we have to do, we literally have to cut your tongue out."
Oh my gosh.
And we like, nah.
That
So
ain't no option.
so radiation wasn't an option, but radiation became an option, and so she had radiation immunotherapy going on at the same time. So um, so I asked my mom the first time when she went through the cancer treatment. She said these words. She said that when she went through the cancer treatment, she said she learned who God was in a different way. Because she went through, my dad had died, and she was a widow at 48 years old. Okay. She's had some traumatic moments in her life, growing up, witnessing abuse, her father abusing her mom, stuff,
Mm-hmm.
things happening. Now she's a widow, and now she got to be a single parent again. And all these others come, and now you got this sickness. She watched my dad go through the sickness, radiation, cancer. So she kind of had an idea, but it was her turn. And she said she learned God in a different way. She saw him differently because in that situation, you know, they say, you'll, like the song said, you'll understand it by and by.
Mm-hmm.
So like Job said, I thought I knew God. I thought I understood him until I went through this. And so that's what's going to happen with you. you're gonna go through something, and you're gonna wonder, okay, God, where are you? What was all this? Why are you letting this happen? You're gonna go through all these questions, and you might have an issue where you may get mad at God. I got mad at God a few times, upset with him. Like, I don't know what's going. But thank God for grace and thank God for mercy, because he understood that I'm just being human. So
Mm-hmm.
that's another thing. As you go through this process, you're going to have don't beat yourself up. Be like, I'm a believer of Jesus Christ. I love the Lord. He heard my cry, and I'm angry. I love the Lord and everything in him, but I'm disappointed.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you feel like, oh, then you feel like you want to backslide. No, no,
Mm-mm.
because I ain't gonna lie, I got kind of savage. And I'm back. I was gonna say, I don't forgot who child I was there for a moment, because I'm doing that things out of brokenness.
Mm-hmm.
So don't resort to your own understanding, trying to figure it out, and resort to things going back to what was that didn't work. That's where trust come in. You just gotta trust God through the process,
Be
and get
angry.
around people who can speak life into you. Get around people who can hold your hand, because the word also says that it's a person of understanding that
Mm-hmm.
can dig deep in like a heart. Your heart is like a
Mm-hmm.
well, and a person of understanding can dig deep and pull that out. That's why we have therapists. That's why we have coaches. That's why we have friends. That's why the word
Mm-hmm.
said, confess your faults to one another. Talk to one another, pray for one another. We need
Mm-hmm.
each other. Do not isolate yourself.
And
That's what the
that's
devil wants you to.
yes, because he gonna mess with this.
Oh yeah, have you thinking all kind of crazy thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
and then you're gonna take yourself out.
When you said something earlier, how you were sharing how you, even with you, how your mom said she learned God at a different,
Mm-hmm.
the difference. What came to me is that each experience we go through, and that's the importance of learning how to cope and navigate when the unexpected. Because most people, you said earlier in the conversation, you were saying, God, why this happened? And a lot of people do that now. Things happen, say, why me? I
Mm-hmm.
have a cousin. I was going through something, and that was during the time leading up to the divorce of my ex-husband. And she said, "Cuz, why not you?"
What makes
And
you
I'm
so
kind of like,
special? Yeah,
okay. At that time, I was like getting attitude. I'm like, "What you mean, not me?"
I know, right? You be like, you be like, so catch these hands, ministries.
And it's not to anoint you.
That's right. Knock you out.
But I thought about it. In order for us to learn who he is as a provider, we have to go through that struggle. Had I not gone through struggle, I would not know he would supply all my needs according to his
Mm-hmm,
riches and
mm-hmm,
glory. Had
mm-hmm.
I not gone through illness, and even now I'm going through some things medically, I would not know that he is a healer, that he's Jehovah Rapha.
Mm-hmm.
All these things, that he's a sustainer, he's a mind regulator, a
Yes,
heart
ma'am.
fixer. All of
Yes.
that, you and I both have not gone through that heartbreak, and that not just us, but many women and men.
Mm-hmm.
Had we not experienced that, we would have never known that he can come. I used to always have this thing where I would say to myself, I said, God, I thank you for your grace and your mercy every day, that you renew every day. I said, even when I miss the mark, you standing like this with your hand stretched out saying,
Amen.
come, daughter,
Amen. Yes.
come, I'm here.
Yes.
When I get weary and I get tired, even now, sometimes when I be thinking about my mom, like, dang, I wish mama was here. I could talk to her. And he said, no, put your head right here.
Mm-hmm.
And I use my pillow as an illustration that that's God's chest. And I put my head on, like, okay, God,
Yeah. Whatever it
daddy,
takes. Yeah.
this is what. So I'm like, had we not gone through all these things, and that not just things past, present, and what may come in the future.
Yeah.
Because it might be some more blindsided, like, okay, where that came from. But
Mm-hmm.
now we are more equipped spiritually
Mm-hmm.
to how to handle it.
Yeah.
So it's not like, oh, I just go on. We ain't not gonna be manic. Like, okay, sometimes like, okay, that's all. That's the best you got. All right,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
get an attitude with the
Yeah.
problem.
Mm-hmm.
You know, things sometimes back in the time before I filed bankruptcy years ago, people call and one time I had this was back way back because I've been at debt. I mean, the bankruptcy for some years now, what 17 years, and I can joyfully say that because at
Mm-hmm.
that time I was like, "Ugh, I don't want to go through this. But God said, if you got to do it, do it.
Yeah.
But in the midst of doing it, that's when He really started teaching me about tithing, and that's another subject, another
Mm-hmm.
day, another time. But he since that time, and this is going back to 2003, when I started really learning and understanding the importance of tithing. The tithing ain't for God; it's for me
Mm-hmm.
because He already own everything. But He
Yep.
said, be consistent with it.
Mm-hmm.
And most people think, that's about getting money. No, it's about some other stuff.
No,
He
if
can
you
block some
that
stuff
devour,
you ain't
that
got no clue about it.
rebuke the devour, that devour come in many forms. Come on.
Thank you. So
Mm-hmm.
I say, just keep being faithful, being trustworthy over that which He's given you. Because you said it early, the size of a mustard seed. So I thank you so much, Pastor,
You're welcome.
being on here and just sum up everything that we talked about. And I know it's been a little bit here, there, everywhere. If you could say one thing to the viewers, is for us to give them motivation, encouragement, inspiration to deal with the unexpected they may be dealing with right now, or when it does happen. Can you share with us?
Mm. I would say that, beloved, be not surprised when these fiery trials
Mm,
come upon you, because it's working a better work inside of you. Patience, resiliency,
mm-hmm,
because there are lean times coming,
mm,
and you have to know how to navigate and operate in them lean times, because people are going to be coming to you
mm-hmm,
for advice, coming to you for guidance. Shoot, they might even pay you for it,
mm-hmm.
and there you go. The oil that never runs out. So when these fiery trials come upon you, because they are, all right, it's working something better in you, and God is working stuff out of you. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and don't, like I say, don't beat yourself up. Don't do what I did, because when I was going through it, I pulled the covers over my head because I was ashamed, because I thought I was weak. But
Mm.
but Paul said, when I'm weak, that's when I'm
I'm
strong.
strong. Yes.
God don't make sense, and I'm glad He don't, because if He
Mm-hmm.
did, we'll figure Him out. So
Mm-hmm.
y'all stay on the course. God bless you.
Thank you so much, Pastor Nunnally, for sharing your thoughts, experiences, insight with us on how to navigate when the unexpected happens in your life. As a final thought, I want to say this, that navigating through the unexpected is an experience that touches everyone. Everyone. I don't care what social economic level you are, your education, where you live, what you drive, the unexpected hits everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Today's discussion was designed to spark some honest conversations full of excuse me, vulnerability, wisdom, and practical insight, because I share my personal experience. Pastor Nunnally shared her personal experience. And this is to provide some inspiration to you, the listener. that you can draw courage, empathy, and the tools you need to take the journey when those unexpected things happen. Because guess what? If you're on this side of heaven, they are going to happen.
Yep.
Thank you again for joining me, Dr. BB, the Naked Confessions Podcast, your host, and Pastor Regina Nunnally. Before we exit, please tell them how you can follow you on social media.
Well, thank you. I am on Instagram at pksensation. PK, preacher kid, pastor kid, sensation. And when you get there, you can click on my link of my website, www.reginanunnally.com, reginanunnally.com. And that'll get you connected to all the other surviving apparel, because I'm allergic to ignorance. That's one of my that's my mantra. I do what I do because ignorance is not bliss, y'all. Okay. As well as my book, Boundless Success with Regina Nunnally. And I'll be coming out with a book series next year called the B&B series. So we'll talk about that later. But
All right. And
yeah,
you can follow the Naked Confessions podcast on IG at naked, NAKDED dot confessions podcast. And if you haven't followed me, follow me over on IG for my personal page, Bessie S. Banks, and you can follow everything as far as what I'm doing business wise, my life coaching, because I do have a life coaching business, and that is called Life Achievers Coaching and Consulting LLC, as well as all my books. Until we come back again, I am your host, Dr. BB. And before I forget, I have another page and we talk about candid chats with Dr. BB when I journal and tell you about my journey in being in therapy. Until we come back again for another episode of Candid Chat. I'm sorry. See, I'm thinking I'm over there. We're
that's
not
fine.
over there.
No, you're not.
Naked Confessions Podcast. Thank you and continue. Have a blessed day. Thank you, Pastor.
You're welcome.
Bye bye.
Bye.